Open your book to page 349. Okay, today's lesson is learn how to do the factoring by grouping. So if you remember from the handout, okay, so when you go through the checklist, right? So first thing you need to do is do the common factor. Then after that, you have to check for special factors. So when you got two terms, you have to do the conjugates. When you have three terms, you check for perfect squares, right? So what we're going to do today is we're going to do the step 2C. Okay? So this is when you have more than three terms. So what to do when you have more than three terms. So on page 349, if you go to example 1, so you have an AX plus AY plus BX plus BY. So notice you got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 terms now, right? So again, you go through the steps. Step 1, common factor. So cannot, right? So you go to step 2. So when you got 4 terms, so you go to step 2C, the grouping. So the concept behind the grouping is you have a very complicated problem. You're going to separate into 2 smaller problems. So you have one big problem, you're going to make into 2 smaller problems, so it's easier to do. Okay? So this is what you're going to do. When you're doing the grouping, right? So you're going to group the first 2 as a group, and then you're going to group the second one as a group. And you always put a plus between the group. Always put a plus between the group. Okay. So again, you have one complicated problem, you're going to make into 2 easier problems. And then after that, you're going to just do each problem individually. So let's do this one first. So you go back to step 1 again. Right now, you're going to start all over because right now you have 2 easier problems to do. Okay, so step 1, common factor. So you got A and A, right? So you can factor out the A. So you got X plus Y, right? Okay, so now let's go and switch to this side. Remember now, you have one complicated problem, you make into 2 easier problems, and you do each one individually. Okay, so on this one, so again, you're going to have the plus over here, right? So again, over here, you got BX and BY, so you can factor out the B, right? Factor out the B. Okay, so after you're done factoring each small and easier problem, now you're going to bring the 2 back together. So now you bring the 2 back together, and remember, you did this before, right? You have the X plus Y, right? So you can go and factor out the X plus Y. And your leftover would be A plus B. And so that's it. So that's how you do the 4 terms. So you make into 2 easier and easier problems, do each one individually, and when you're done, you bring it back together. Okay? So let's go over a couple more examples. Let's go to example 2. So you got AB minus B plus A minus 1. Okay, so again, so step 1, common factor, cannot. So step 2, right? 4 terms, you go to step 4, 2C, right? So 4 terms, you group. And remember, always put a plus between the group, always, okay? And then you got A minus 1. Okay, so now let's do the first half. So you got AB minus B, so you can factor out the B, so you got A minus 1. Remember, when you factor out everything, it's 1, right? You can check. B times A is AB, B times negative 1 is negative B. Okay, so you're done with this half, so let's do this half. Okay, well, this one, you cannot do anything, right? There's nothing you can do about it, so just leave it alone. So now you can bring both together. So you got A minus 1, A minus 1. So you can factor this out. And the leftover would be B plus, remember when you factor everything, it's 1, right? And so that's it. Okay? Let's go to example 3. So you got 2x squared plus 3x minus 6xy minus 9y. So again, step 1, common factor, 2, 3, 6, 9. There's no common number you can factor out. And the variable, this had no y, so you cannot do y. This had no x, so you cannot do x. So cannot, right? So step 1 cannot. So you go to step 2. So you got 4 terms, so that's step 2C, right? The grouping. So again, you group the first 2. And remember what I said, right? You always put a plus between the group, right? Always, right? So this would be negative 6xy minus 9y. Again, you always put a plus between the groups. Okay, so now let's go and do the first group. So you got x squared and x, so you can factor out the x. So you got 2x plus 3. Okay, so now you go to the second half. Now this one over here, notice you got negative. So if you have negative in the beginning, you have to factor out the negative. When you factor out a negative and negative combined with a positive, it will give you negative. Okay, so you can, when you're negative with a positive, it will give you negative. Now 6 and 9, you can factor out the 3. And y, you can factor out the y. So you have to figure out the leftover now. Okay, so -6 factor out the -3, it will give you 2. Again, that's what you want. You always want to have a positive in the beginning. The y is gone already, so you got x. And this one, negative, when you factor out the negative, become positive 3. Okay? And you want to double check. -3y times 2x give you -6xy, check. -3y times 3 give you -9y, good. Okay? So now you're done. Now you're going to bring the two together again. Okay? Well, look, wow. See how nice, right? So again, you can factor this out. So you're going to get 2x plus 3. And when you factor out, right, it's gone, right? So the leftover would be x minus 3y. And that's it. Okay? So one more example. Let's go to example 4. So you got a squared minus b squared plus 3a minus 3b. So you can do the grouping. Well, step 1, common factor cannot, right? So you go to step 2. So a squared minus b squared. Again, always put a plus. Okay. Now, this plus is not this plus. Okay, they are not the same. Okay, this one is the one you have to add all the time. But when you put this plus in here, you don't have to put plus, right, in the beginning. Okay. But in reality, this plus goes to the inside. Okay, this plus goes to the inside. Okay, so again, you got 2 problems. So let's go and do the first half. Okay, so again, remember this is a brand new problem, right? So you have to go through the step 1, step 2 again, right? So step 1, common factor cannot, right? So you go to step 2. Now, 2 term, this is what? Difference of square, right? So difference of square, you're going to break it into conjugates, right? So you're going to have an a and a, right? A times a give you a squared. Plus times minus give you minus. And you got b times b give you b squared, right? So we are done with the first half. Now let's go to the second half. Okay, this one, you can factor out the 3. So you got a minus b, right? Okay, so now we're done with each half. So we're going to bring them back together. And you look, what do they have in common? Well, you got this one here and this one here, right? So go and factor it out. So you're going to get a minus b. And the leftover would be, so this is gone. So the leftover would be a plus b plus 3, right? Okay, and that's it. Okay, so that's how you do the grouping. Okay, so let's go ahead and do practice.